Odyssey's going back to school, and we've got all the supplies you need, like A-plus exclusive music stations and podcasts to help you or your student excel. Wake up and get the school day started with Acoustic Sunrise, the best mix of acoustic pop. Hit the books with Classical Odyssey, passionate classical music to help you focus while you study. Listen to essential school podcasts like Grammar Girl's Quick and Dirty Tips for Better Writing, and be inspired with TED Talks Daily. Get back to school with new exclusive stations, plus all your favorite local radio stations and podcasts on Odyssey.
You want to know what wagertainment is? It's the picks, the analysis, the information, mixed with the laughter and the entertainment. Smart sports betting content that'll put a smile on your face.
The BetQL Network, streaming live each day and helping you bet smarter.
If you're a sports fan, you know why you should listen. It's sports betting content without the BS. No hot takes, no nonsense.
The BetQL Network, streaming live right now on Odyssey.
Sports, bets, and entertainment.
Oh, man. Joe DeCamera and John Ritchie, 94 WIP. We'll get to the blame balls coming up in 10 minutes. Who to blame from last night, as if we haven't already addressed that 15 times over. I look out the window here, guys. I see it's raining. I mean, my Philly sports heart is hurting. I got an Eagles team that not only lost last night, but lost in a way that makes it a real possibility that this season could go off the rails.
To the Dallas Cowboys.
To the Dallas Cowboys, with Andy Reid and the Chiefs about to come in and wallop the Eagles. I've got a Sixers press conference yesterday that was, in some ways, fine, but in other ways, a complete farce. We all know it's a charade going on there. You know, Ben Simmons not practicing today. I've got a Philly season where supposedly they're in it, but no one feels like they're in it, and we expect in the next 2 to 3 days we'll find out that they have effectively been eliminated. I mean, I don't know, man. Flyers play their first game tonight, so there you go. It's not a regular season game; it's a preseason game. But it's this one, James. We haven't heard from you yet. This one hurts.
Yeah, man, it really hurts, especially after getting some hope from that first game of the season and maybe believing more than I did prior and all that, to kind of get slammed back down this quickly. And to your point, to have such a bleak feeling with the injuries and the schedule coming up. It's not great, John.
No, it's not. All right, to the phones we go. Let's talk to George in Conshohocken. Good morning, George.
Hey, good morning, Joe and John. How you guys doing?
Not great.
Yeah, same here. Typically, I try not to anymore in my older age, not get too high after a win or too low after a loss. Very tough after last night. And I'm so glad you guys gave them snap numbers, because what my eyes are telling me is Quez Watkins is one of the best offensive players on the field. And for him to only get the amount of snaps that he had and Goddard, I mean, that's just a punch in the face. I mean, that makes no sense at all. I mean, these guys should be getting the bulk of the snaps at their position. Not half or less than that.
Yep.
It's crazy. And that
shame.
just tells you that, it's getting filtered down from above, and it's more the same. But my question is, I called earlier before the season, and my main takeaway from this year, I needed to see if Jalen Hurts was going to be our starting quarterback of the future.
Yep.
Now, I know it's too early to, come to that, decision. And I think base it upon 3 games this year is pretty much unfair. But at what point do you say, hey, maybe we should see if Gardner Minshew is
So, George, I think that is I still think that's at least a solid month down the road, and probably even more. Listen, last night's the first night that I started thinking about, hey, I should start thinking about that. But to me, Hurts should get another month and a half, and then you figure it out from there. I mean, if he is so truly bad in the next 3 weeks, I guess you can make a change. But I just, in the end, I don't think that Jalen Hurts or Gardner Minshew, and certainly not Joe Flacco, will be the quarterback of the future. So I think at some point this year, you're just going to be grasping at straws. What last night really, I'll use the word convinced me of, is that Jalen Hurts just isn't good enough. He's just not. He's just not good enough.
Yeah, and I actually, I'm starting to lean that way. And like I said, I'd hate to make that, determination only after 3 games, but
right.
I don't know how much more, there's 3-4 more weeks of this exact same type of play. I mean, that's probably enough for me to make my decision.
I understand, George.
Well, the problem's going to be all these teams know what we're going to try to do. I don't think Jalen's going to have a ton of success throwing the football over the next month against good teams. And so I don't know if that gives you an accurate picture. Like the hardest part of our schedule right here on the tail end of his worst game we've ever seen. It doesn't set up for his success.
Well,
sure.
it doesn't. But to me, my bigger issue, John, with Hurts is not so much. It's not even just the lack of production. It's that they obviously don't trust him.
Yeah.
And that speaks to the fact that he probably shouldn't be trusted.
Trimming this offense back to the point where
Yeah.
it's so basic
Yeah.
and so simple for defenses to say, all right, you know what we're going to do? We're going to get up at the line of scrimmage. We're going to bump these receivers,
Right.
prevent him from hitting them short, or just rally to the tackle and we'll tackle guys for 5-yard gains because everything is within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. Our offense right now, I don't see much hope.
Well, I don't either. And the thing about Hurts is I would if Hurts was a less experienced college quarterback, I would have more hope for his prospects moving forward. Part of why I'm down on Hurts so much today is the offense around him is so simplified because they don't trust him. I think rightfully so. And he is a guy that played at major universities and in major games. So if anything, he should be more advanced than some. He's just not. He obviously just is not a full read. Look, it's one read, run. One read, run. And by the way, when he runs, while he is good at it, let's not act like he's Lamar Jackson. Let's not act like he's Randall. I mean, I remember the early days of Randall. It was messy. Randall would mess a lot of stuff up. But when Randall ran, he galloped. He galloped. Jalen Hurts is not all that. So it's really I hope to be proven wrong, but last night convinced me. And I had a couple of friends text me, "Nah, Joe, don't give up on Hurts." I'm like, guys, I'm telling you, this guy isn't the guy. Chris in Ocean City. Chris, you're on WIP.
Man, I just feel so stupid for believing in Jalen. I've been like such a big supporter of his for, the last couple of months. And last night, I mean, that was full dark, no stars. I mean, there's nothing you can even hang your hat on. I mean, every pass was bad.
And by the way, Chris, let me make one point now, because a few people came at me yesterday on Twitter about Carson and stuff I said related to Carson last year. They're two different issues. The Eagles had to move on from Carson. They made the right decision in doing so. I'm glad they did. That didn't mean Jalen Hurts was going to be all that and 15 bags of chips. It just meant they had to move on from Carson. And they're, either Hurts or someone else would eventually become the starting quarterback. But, I just hope people don't conflate the issues. It just because Hurts is struggling doesn't mean they did wrong in getting rid of Carson. All right, go ahead.
Oh, absolutely. They're two completely separate things. The organization made the right decision of moving on from Carson.
Yes.
I think one of the things that's so disappointing is that Jalen last night looked like Carson last year, and that is not sustainable in this league. And it's one of those things where it was so bad, and we want to give him time to develop, and maybe it's an aberration, but it was so bad where that's not sustainable just from the fact of being able to evaluate the other positions on the field. Because, again, I mean, it's like, how do we know how good Jalen Reagor is if you're underthrowing him by 5-6 yards?
Yeah.
On passes. And I just feel like such an idiot for believing that he was the guy. And it just seems like he's very clearly. I don't know.
He's not the guy. He's not the guy.
I just don't see how you can come back from that.
Yep.
And man, I don't know where to go from here. I'm a little like flabbergasted, I guess, because like I called yesterday saying, any outcome was equally as likely, and I could see them getting blown out, but not in the manner in which they did. And I just, for Sirianni and for Jalen, I don't even know what you say to people.
Listen,
after
Chris,
that type of performance.
The way Jalen Hurts comes back from this is Nick Sirianni relies on the ride and decide offense. Like we actually run the football, let him do what he does best, and you can still put teams in a predicament. Like Jalen Hurts was not permitted to do his strengths last night. Our offensive line wasn't permitted to block to their strengths last night. If we run the football, and we should just be predominantly a running team, that's what's so crazy to me.
I agree
why
with
on
that.
earth,
I agree with
when you have this guy as your quarterback,
right,
do you veer so extremely from his strengths? We can still put teams against a wall and put them in a bind. I'm not saying we're going to win a ton of games, because I don't think we are, and I never have. But we can keep it close. We can run the football. We can shorten the game. 3 called runs is such an outlier. I've never heard of that.
No, I haven't either.
In my whole life.
No.
Loving football. It's I don't know if it's happened. And it's just such a shame that this staff, with the pressure that's being placed on them from above, I believe, they are so, they've gone the wrong way, and they can still save this, but it's going to take, standing up to the front office.
Well, the first year Jeffrey Lurie had a full season, 1995, the team struggled. They were 1-3 out of the gate, and they made a decision after the 4th week to change quarterbacks and run the ball a ton. And they went from Randall to Rodney Peete, and they had 2 really good running backs in Ricky Wooders and Charlie Gardner. We talk about Jeffrey Lurie's institutional knowledge. That was his first year, full season, 95. They ran the ball a ton, and they ran the ball to 10 wins and a playoff win. And the playoffs and a win. I mean, so they've got to get their head screwed on straight. You're right, John. I mean, yesterday would be like.
Problem is you have to have a good defense to go with that.
Well, yes, and yesterday they got boat raced. I just they should know better. Lurie should know better. Howie should know better. Sirianni should know better.
It's crazy that they don't. It's crazy that they've lost themselves to the point where they think their way is the best way.
Right.
It's not.
Another aspect I wonder about is
got to get your ego in check.
How long until the wide receivers get frustrated? Not that all of them should be squawking, because I don't think they're playing great. But if you're a wide receiver and fundamentally you only have so many limited chances to get the ball in a game, and then you get open and the guy doesn't get you the ball, or it's
fortunate that they're young for the most part. That'll help with that, where they're not the big flashy.
It looks. Listen,
established wide receiver.
I'm no expert on like 7th grade offenses, but it looks like a 7th grade offense.
Yeah.
Hey,
and defenses who are facing us are licking their chops because it is a 7th grade offense.
Yeah, the quarterback. I mean, this is what you see in grade school. The quarterback turns to one side of the field.
I just watched my high school game back last Friday. We're running the same stuff.
It's like, what is this? All right. I don't even know where to go. Let's get to as we do. Normally when they win, well, they don't normally win, but when they do, it's the Bad of the Bone Award. When they lose, it's the Bad Award. Now named the Blame Balls. Yeah, there was a lot of bad last night. John, James, let's go. John, take the first crack at it. I know some of this stuff we've already talked about.
There's some real obvious ones. This one, there are a lot of people who are still defending Fletcher Cox and saying, hey, he's getting double teamed. What do you expect? Well, last night, it sort of turned to where the Dallas Cowboys were double teaming Javon Hargrave an awful lot, and he was still making plays. He was making plays. He was busting through those double teams. He was a presence on that field. Fletcher Cox, I know he had the fumble recovery touchdown. He had zeros across the board other than that. This is, again, our biggest cap hit on this roster, and we are paying him through 2025. He had the 3rd most snaps of the D tackles yesterday because he couldn't finish the game out. That final scoring drive that the Cowboys had, he was in the locker room.
Yep.
He had 0 tackles, 0 sacks, 0 tackles for loss, 0 quarterback hits. And that is in line with what he had in week 1. Zeros across the board. Fletcher Cox was blocked yesterday on Zeke's touchdown on the ground by a chicken wing. Not a double team. By one man blocking him with his arm.
Do you see lack of effort?
At times. I see a guy who expects to be double teamed and sort of revs down the motor and just, doesn't do enough. He's getting pushed off the ball. He's getting pushed around. Now, he still has some good plays in him where he, gets penetration. But we need to see a lot more than this.
Seltzer, blame ball. Where are you going?
Oh, my God. I mean, how do you choose one? A million guys. Derek Barnett, I hate him. Landon Dickerson was horrible. Rager stinks. I mean, so many guys, but I'll go right to – and Hurts was horrible. Nick Sirianni. Are we serious with that? 3 runs? No game plan? Dog mentality? Beat Dallas? And you went in with that? Nick Sirianni is like the all-time blame ball today as far as I'm concerned.
John, There might not be anything better on this show than when James gets all fired up. His voice gets really high. People don't see it, but James talks with his body. What I mean by
animated talk.
Yeah, he'll lean back. His head goes back. His back arches. It's really bizarre. Yeah. It's entertaining to watch. Maybe one of these days we'll get the show on TV and people can know. I mean, John, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, sure do.
He puts his whole body into it. It is so strange, but God bless you, man. All right, so blame ball. Well, look, I mean, these guys have hit some good ones, obviously. Look, of course, Hurts and Sirianni, and I've already talked a ton about them, and I could give it to the whole defense. And, yes, I could just go Derek Barnett. So, but I'll go to someone else. I mentioned him briefly earlier. I'll just say it again. Landon Dickerson's been terrible. I mean, that guy's been awful. And I don't want to invoke Sidney Jones yet because it's too early. Look, there's two things that you could say make it not Landon Dickerson's fault. The first is he barely had a training camp and just isn't in football shape to be, ready to go, especially at the NFL level, coming off the injury. The second,
and Sidney Jones had a year off.
I know he did. The second issue, though, which I do believe was the Sidney Jones issue and could be the Landon Dickerson issue, it's too early to know, is he's just never going to be physically the same after those injuries. That happens to people. Happens all the time.
Or it could be that he's cut out to be a run-blocking guard.
Could be.
And they're asking him to pass block on every single play.
Could be some of that also.
Yeah.
But I'll just say the early goings on Landon Dickerson, who, man, I had some people telling me this guy, if he comes back healthy, this guy is going to be phenomenal. Wow, this guy looks horrendous. So, obviously, we could go in a million directions. I do think Hurts and Sirianni are by far the most culpable last night. But I just wanted to throw some other names in there as well. And, of course, the defense in general was just terrible.
The linebackers were awful.
Oh, they were terrible.
All of them.
And then
they're soft. And that's the worst part. Watching soft play.
Yeah. And then
they were talking about those double teams up front. On every snap, you know how they were getting after our big guys. Well, that should help those linebackers out because you can then attack your gap. You know what's coming. Why didn't we know what was coming? Why didn't we just get downhill on it?
Yeah, and they don't get much support from the safeties. I do think the safety spot opposite Anthony Harris is a spot. If they had to spend money if they had money they could spend this offseason, they would have signed a safety. But basically they said, all right, we'll take Rodney McLeod back on a super cheap deal. We'll hope he's ready at some point. And then it's like, all right, we'll play the Kayvon Wallace and Marcus Epps game. I mean, they basically don't have a starting safety there. They just don't have one. So, and that is a byproduct of not having, much money to spend in the offseason. Let's go to Justin in Tennessee. Hey, Justin.
Hey, guys. I ain't going to ask how it's going because I know how it's going. I feel the same as y'all do.
Yeah.
My thought, I guess, is like we remember, was it 2019 when we played the Packers and had that big win against them, and we heard the rumors that Jeffrey was upset with Doug that he ran the ball too much?
Yeah, that was week 4 of 2019.
Yeah, that just leads to more, in my opinion, thought that – yeah, Jeffrey and Howie are pulling all the strings.
Well, it's an important question, Justin, to be asked at the next Nick Sirianni press conference. He's gonna hold a press conference Wednesday afternoon, and it's really important for the reporters to dig in. Now, listen, you're going to get a shield effect from Sirianni. Whatever he knows to be the truth, I guarantee you, he will shield it from the public. But it's important that the reporters try to dig in there because we need answers. We really do want answers. Was what we saw last night truly Sirianni's vision? Truly, that's his vision? Or was he doing what he was told to do by Howie and Laurie?
Well, it's like John said earlier.
Because, by the way, either way, it's a disaster. I want to be clear. If Sirianni actually thought that's the right way to coach a football game, then Sirianni's not going to last more than a year or two. If it came from on high from Laurie and Howie, that to me is an even bigger issue because that could happen for the next 5 to 10 years. You could just have a revolving door of yes men coaches, and that's an even bigger disaster.
It is, and that was my next point. If I'm Sirianni, this is his first shot at getting a head coaching job. Could possibly be his only shot if this turns out to be a disaster. And if I'm going down my way.
Yeah. Justin, what did Eminem say in the song featured in 8 Mile? Give me the opening lyrics. Seltzer, give me the opening lyrics. One shot, one opportunity, right? If you're Nick Sirianni, you're going to let it all fall apart. I mean, seriously, like Sirianni's got his – if it is coming from the front office, I know John's saying this is why he was hired, and John's probably right, but you have an obligation to yourself to stand up to the front office and say, no, I'm not doing it that way because that's stupid.
Well, that's my opinion. And one more thing, too.
Yeah.
I heard the other caller earlier talk about on the pick six that Devontae fell down. That was going to be a pass breakup anyway because Jalen was staring Devontae down that entire
probably,
route.
but not 7 points for the Cowboys.
Man, that's
not 7 points, but it was going to probably be a pass breakup. And everybody, our biggest thing was, the greatest thing would be if Hurts turned out to be a franchise quarterback because we have all this draft capital to do whatever.
He's just not good, Justin. He's just not good. I mean, I'm just calling it straight. He's just not good.
If he's got one receiver on most plays, like these slip screens and stuff like that, like it's hard to look off the one receiver, I guess. He doesn't have a receiver to look off to on some of these plays.
Yep.
Like that's bizarre to me.
All right, coming up.
This is professional football.
John, I agree. Coming up, something else bizarre. Really bizarre. A fact I heard this morning. What it was, tell you next. Joe DeCamera, John Ritchie. Plus, today at noon, your opportunity to hear the Sirianni press conference from late last night. I actually went to bed. After the game ended, I said, I'm done. I can't do it. I'm done. What's the point? I have actually gone back and listened to it this morning. But if you didn't hear, Sirianni got peppered with questions. Great questions by the reporters. You'll hear how that went down late last night. We'll play that today at noon and react. Joe DeCamera and John Ritchie on 94 WIP. Hey, after 20 years on the same sideline, Tom Brady and Bill Belichick meet this weekend as opponents. It is obviously GOAT quarterback versus the former GOAT head coach. Well, I guess he's still the GOAT head coach, but he's not looking so good without the other guy. And you can be part of the epic showdown with unbelievable odds on FanDuel Sportsbook in partnership with Valley Forge Casino. Right now, new customers can win $125 on a $5 bet if either team scores a touchdown. And needless to say, there's going to be some touchdowns in this game. You heard it right. 25-1 odds on any touchdown, anytime during the Tampa Bay-New England game with FanDuel Sportsbook, the official partner of 94 WIP. Sign up using promo code HAMMER. Promo code HAMMER to get in on this deal for this game or any of the games. And what a great opportunity this one is. It's frankly a layup. Promo code HAMMER with FanDuel Sportsbook.
I'm Erin Ryan, political commentator, comedy writer, and host of Crooked Media's Hysteria.
And I'm co-host Alyssa Mastromonaco, former White House Deputy Chief of Staff for President Obama.
Each week on Hysteria, we are joined by a team of hilariously opinionated ladies to discuss the headlines from the serious to the absurd.
We cover everything from reproductive rights to rom-coms and break down the political news of the week and cultural stories that affect women's lives.
New episodes of Hysteria drop every Thursday. Listen on Odyssey, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
You want to know what wagertainment is? It's the picks, the analysis, the information, mixed with the laughter and the entertainment, smart sports betting content that'll put a smile on your face.
The BetQL Network, streaming live each day and helping you bet smarter.
If you're a sports fan, you know why you should listen. It's sports betting content without the BS. No hot takes, no nonsense.
The BetQL Network, streaming live right now on Odyssey.
Sports, bets, and entertainment.
Hey, I'm Peter Bukowski, host of the Locked On Today podcast. Trying to stay on top of every big story in sports is a full-time job. I know, because it is my full-time job. But it's not yours. That's why we have a network of local experts ready to give you the inside scoop on everything you truly need to know in the sports world. And we do it every day to make sure you're always caught up on the latest and greatest in sports. Listen to the Locked On Today podcast every day on the Odyssey app or wherever you get podcasts.